Hello, welcome to my presentation on instructional strategies for active learning. For this presentation, I chose to focus on project-based learning. Project-based learning is one of many instructional approaches where students engage in exploring real-world problems over a period of time, and it involves students active in the learning process, researching and acquiring deeper knowledge through hands-on projects. The key principles of project-based learning. At the heart of PBL, as I will be referring to it also, is a significant question or problem that is authentic, engaging, and challenging. PBL also encourages student autonomy, where students have input in the project, how they approach it, and the end product that they create. They also engage in inquiry, research, experimentation, and critical thinking to explore the driving question. Often, students work in teams, collaborating to plan and present their projects, so students really have to work on communication, negotiation, and teamwork during this process. A key feature of PBL is students' work culminates in a public product, like a presentation, a report, or a model. Next, reflection and feedback. Throughout the project, students reflect and receive feedback from their peers, teachers, and any outside influences, like possibly an administration or maybe even the special teachers. And lastly, authenticity in the tasks because the projects are connected to real world issues, which increases the relevant and engagement in the learning process. John Dewey championed the idea that education should be an active experiential process. Kilpatrick's method emphasized purposeful activities where students work on projects that are both meaningful and relevant. Papert advocated for learning through making and experimenting with technology, which has become a significant aspect of modern PBL practices. In recent years, it has gained momentum due to its alignment with 21st century skills. Organizations like the Buck for Education, BIE, have played a crucial role in formalizing and promoting these frameworks. So, looking at the basis for PBL, going back to John Dewey, he believed that students learn best when they're actively involved in a process of inquiry where their learning is linked to practical real world tasks. Vygotsky emphasized the importance of social interactions and collaborations in the learning process, and Kolb sees it as a cyclical process where students engage in the projects, then they reflect on their experiences, create the concept, and then test those ideas in new situations. So, in order to effectively use project based learning, you need to follow the following steps. So, first is starting with an essential question or real world problem. Next is involving the students in planning, defining the roles and setting deadlines for the project. Next is engaging in research and critical thinking. Next is developing a tangible product or solution to the driving question from the first step. Next is providing opportunities for feedback and revisions. Next is presenting the product and solution to an authentic audience. And then finally, reflection, allowing the students to reflect on the learning process and its outcomes. So, why use project based learning? Well, as I mentioned earlier, it helps develop those 21st century skills. Students are involved in critical thinking by analyzing problems, thinking deeply, and making informed decisions. They're collaborating, which fosters teamwork, communication, and problem solving. And it also encourages creativity, allowing them to explore unique approaches to solve real world problems. Next, it makes the learning more meaningful by tying it to those real world contexts, allowing them to see their practical applications. Students engage in solving actual challenges makes the learning more engaging and directly applicable to their lives and futures. And also, it shifts the students from being passive to active participants in their learning. They think more deeply about topics and have a more thorough understanding of it. Lastly, it prepares them with critical skills like problem solving and teamwork, which will be essential for entering the job market. And these real world experiences in PBL prepare students for the hands on skills they will need in the future. So, the benefits of using project based learning is that it is a really hands on process. You get a real world task, and that can really motivate students to be more actively involved in the project. It encourages critical thinking, problem solving, and application of the knowledge. It builds teamwork, communication skills throughout the group project. It prepares students with skills like creativity, critical thinking, and digital literacy, all important skills in the 21st century. It empowers students to take responsibility for their own learning and make choices. And it connects classrooms to real world contexts, which makes, in the end, learning more meaningful. While project based learning has its benefits, there are also cons, which is that it is time consuming. Planning, researching, and executing these projects can take longer than traditional methods. For example, in my school, we do research projects every term where students, with approval, get to choose their research topics. They take research notes using um, books and plan out their visuals, create their visuals, and ultimately present on this topic that they've been spending probably about 2.5 months learning about. So it's a long process. It can be difficult to assess individual contributions versus group gains, especially if, in our instance, if they did a group research project, just being mindful and paying attention to students' involvement in the process. It requires teachers to have strong facilitation skills and a good understanding of how to guide this inquiry based learning. May require additional materials, technology, and supports that not all schools have. We have plenty of books in our library online, but sometimes that isn't enough. And I myself have gone to our local public library to get books for my students to give them that support. And lastly, students might not be ready for it. It's very self directed and might require additional support on your end. I touched base on a little bit of research projects in my school. That's more individual project based learning versus collaborative. But looking at it does have a huge collaborative component. So, Google programs like Google Docs and Google Slides allow for real time collaboration and editing. Different presentation tools like Prezi or Canva, though in our school, mostly Google Slides. Digital storytelling platforms like Book Creator and WeVideo. Trello or Padlet can be used to organize tasks and responsibilities within groups. Not something I use at my grade level for fourth and fifth grade, but definitely something I could see more beneficial for the middle and high school level. And virtual field trips. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of field trips cost money, and a lot of budgets don't allow for that many trips during a year. So, a Google Earth or expedition for exploring faraway places could really make the educational process even more authentic. So, project based learning in the end is a very beneficial instructional approach for all grade levels. You could start as early as pre K with a research project and going as high as high school or collegiate level with anything to do between budgeting and more intensive research project. It's something that I use in my classroom, and I hope that you can take away some piece to incorporate into either your classroom or your workplace. And thank you so much for listening.